as harsh as all the characters in the normal heart are to each other in their fear and their anger at what's happening to them in 1981 to 1983. You could always feel the love they had for each other, even when they were knifing each other in the back. I think it's easier for us to love each other, whether we know it or not, because we've all, and I think women probably have a lot of that. Certainly a lot more than straight men. Straight women probably do, because they know what it's like having been beat up on by the world, and I think that gives you a certain amount of a compassion that you have with other women. And I think gay people instinctively have that too, whether they know it or not. I'm here to tell them. Identify what makes you angry and not give a shit what anybody thinks of you and your anger, and be able to carry on direct action with what you care passionately about, and simply, oh, so he thinks that, goodbye, forget it. It doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't anymore. And it's a big thing to get past, but it's worth it, and it's wonderful when you can say it. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I guess with each experience along my path of trying different things and new things, I experienced great pain, which gave me the lesson and the strength to move on to the next one a little more hardened. At the height of AIDS, of the hideousness of AIDS, and at the height of ACT UP success, we had maybe across the country 10,000 people connected to various ACT UP chapters. When there are, I don't know, 24 million of us in the world, in this country, and that always strikes me as a terrible statistic that we've never been able to do much about. We are not politically active in any way. Well, no one's ever come along to pick up the torch. It's always amazed me that another Larry Kramer hasn't come along. I've always said exactly what I felt. I've always been very honest and truthful, and I've not been afraid to confront people of power. There were plenty of gay people who hated me. I'm sure there are people of that generation to this day who disapprove of me, but that has never bothered me. To be able to say what you want to say seems to me to be worth any price. It wasn't always that way. I was a frightened child, and I certainly was timid. I didn't emulate anyone. I made it up as I went along. I said that quite often. We made it up as we went along in both GMHC and ACT UP. What was needed to be done that day? What was the emergency that day? Who were we after that day? It changed day by day. One day the enemy was this person, the next day it was that person. And you had to be adept enough to swivel and punt and all of these things. We did not have any role models, unfortunately. This is a plague, AIDS, that was allowed to happen from day one. What I was saying in 1112 and counting, the very first piece I wrote about all this, or the second, is now 70 million and counting. And in all those years since 1981, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And we have said exactly the same thing every single year. We've pointed out exactly what was happening, and nobody in any effective authority or position of leadership has done anything about it. People are essentially cowards. They don't have the courage of their convictions and quite often don't know what their convictions really are. People just want to be left alone. They want to go home to whatever's there and be safe. I'm not interested in being a good citizen. I define a good human being as somebody who takes responsibility in his life and makes the world a better place. I don't care if people like me. We spend too much time worrying, both as a population and as individuals, that people like us. It's a waste of time. How do you get large numbers of people to move beyond complacency of everyday life? You speak up and say what's in your heart every day to everybody you can, which is what I do. You see something awful going on, you try to identify it. Don't be silent. Silence equals death, which is the famous ACT UP motto. I feel fortunate to have lived the life that I have lived and to have been able to be useful to the world. That gives me a lot of pleasure. And that journey is available to anybody. I was no big deal, a little more stubborn perhaps than others, but God knows everybody's got that in them. I suffer from a hideous fear of heights, and I will not go above a 3rd floor, which is causing all of you to come up here to have dinner without me. For years I was ashamed of it, and I never would talk about it. I just would use excuses not to go anywhere high up. And over the years I've learned to live with it. And recently I discovered, by reading my least favorite newspaper, the New York Times, and discovering that there indeed is a chemical reason for all of this, that you are lacking a certain enzyme in your brain, which causes irrational fears like this. I cannot tell you what a shame was lifted from my body. Now I don't give a shit about that either. If anybody says, will you come up here? And I say, no, I'm afraid of heights. Let's do it somewhere else. Whatever the object lesson is in that, I don't know. But I am here and you are there. Thank you. And I apologize for any inconvenience. No, I don't apologize for any inconvenience. Thank you.